But what we're talking about is Joe Biden's health situation. It was announced today that Joe Biden has an aggressive form of prostate cancer, which isn't all that far out of the realm of possibility for a man of his age. Men go through this. We understand this is fairly aggressive and it's already metastasized to his bone. So this is a troubling situation. We've got a man of 82 years of age who is struggling with this cancer scare. And it's hard to say how this is going to go. Now, understand that Joe Biden's gone through a lot of things when he was younger. He had a couple of aneurysms that were taken care of, and he could have lost his life then. Of course, he lost his son, his daughter, and his wife his daughter and his wife in a car crash, and his son to cancer later in life. So this is a man that's known about tragedy over the years. The interesting thing about this, though, I was listening to a doctor who was talking about this cancer case, and she thought it would be surprising that they wouldn't have known about this before the election, well before things, because of different readings they might have gotten. I don't know if that's the case. It doesn't really matter. But what I was surprised about was that when Donald Trump heard about it, I expected some smart aleck remark, because that's what Donald Trump does. Instead, it was a very respectful thing. I hope he's doing better. I hope he recovers quickly. Our thoughts are with the Biden family. That is not what I expected out of Donald Trump. And in fact, Marjorie Taylor Greene was fairly decent about what they said to Joe Biden and his family. And now, of course, there are some other Trump-la-fucks out there saying other things that aren't so pleasant. One guy who said prior to the election, prior to Joe Biden stepping out, that he had a terminal illness. And now he's running around saying, oh, see, I'm right. Joe had a terminal illness. Well, we don't know that it's a terminal illness. It is pretty serious at this point. But again, I'll point out that he's 82 years of age. When something happens to somebody of that age, it becomes even more frightening. Jose Valdez says, so unacceptable that CNN cares more about Jake Tapper's book as opposed to the former President Biden's health and well-being. Yeah, that book that Jake Tapper put out, my comment on that was, who cares? They're trying to expose how Joe Biden was cognitively diminished during the time he was in office, and that there was some cover-up or something along those lines. Okay, maybe, maybe not. I don't really care, because that's old business. Joe Biden's no longer the president. We've got a current sitting president who has some cognitive issues. Jake, why don't you write a book about that, you wussy-ass motherfucker? See, this is what these people do. They get this inside information, or claim to have this inside information, and they hold it back. And then they wait until they can turn it into a book to make money. Now, if what Jake Tapper is saying is true, that would have been valuable to have while he was president. If we knew these things, it could have changed a lot of things. But instead, they hold it back, and they're just worried about making money on it. Jake Tapper, lost all respect for him some time ago when he interviewed Donald Trump, and I think he did the debate too. Yeah, Jake Tapper is just a hack on CNN, which is a hack fucking network. Leslie says, and Ronald Reagan, if they want past presidents. Yeah, there was a lot of information about Ronald Reagan after he was out of office, of course, that he had some cognitive abilities, and I think there's no question that he did. You could see it in his speeches. You know, the funny thing about it is, though, as bad as Ronald Reagan might have been, he still seemed a lot more coherent than Donald Trump is today. So if we had a president that had problems with cognitive issues because he was in his late 70s, early 80s, maybe we should take a note of that, because we have a current president who's 78, going to be 79 next month, and has some cognitive issues. So instead of waiting till after the fact and putting out this information, why not do it now, Jake? Why don't you do your investigation now about Donald Trump and tell us what's really going on instead of waiting till after the fact, after we have to go through all that Donald Trump has wrought on this country? It's uh, it's pretty amazing to me the level of or lack of integrity of people in the media and people in Congress, people in politics in general. There is no integrity anymore. It's all about how much I can put in my pocket, and that's all that matters. The country, the people of this country, be damned. That's the media. That is the politicians in this country. I've often said that, one of the biggest problems we have in this country is the media. They saw who Donald Trump was when he first started to run in 2015. They could have shut that down if they held his feet to the fire, but they chose not to because it was more valuable to them to put on his little shit show because they said it was good TV and they only cared about the money. Okay, so he's in office. They continue to do it. Donald Trump does things to damage this country. After the 2020 election, when he said it was a hoax, did the media push back on him? Not hard enough. Not hard enough, because there's people still fucking today, that believe that was a flawed election, that Donald Trump really won. In fact, I read something today. It was either Texas or Oklahoma or one of those fucking states. They're in their curriculum. They are going to teach how 2020's election was stolen. Why are we even worried about 2020 elections? It's 2025 right now. Let some shit go. It wasn't a fraud. It was a fair and honest election. Everything, every study, every investigation has said it so. But because Donald Trump can't admit to being a loser, and let me say, he's a fucking loser beyond any imagination, but they're still trying to push this. Reggie Cole says even Biden diminished is far, far better than the current felon in chief. Absolutely. Absolutely. Joe had his problems. He was a little slow. He stammered. Um, and when you think of Joe, people are trying to say, well, maybe he should have got out earlier. Maybe he should have stepped down and let Kamala take over. I think in retrospect, what should have happened was that at the end of his term, he should have said, I'm not running again. Hand it off to somebody else. Now, I understand why Joe did this. Joe said that he beat Donald Trump once and he can do it again. And I appreciate that. But Joe had the years working against him. When he first ran for election in 2020, I said, this has got to be a one term. I mean, he's going to be in his 80s when he goes for a second term. No way he can do that. But then, of course, he does. And then 3 months before the election, Kamala Harris becomes the presidential candidate. It still even seemed that Kamala Harris had every shot in the world to beat Donald Trump, but for whatever reason, clearly we have a larger amount of dumb people in this country, ignorant people in this country, where 49% of the people voted for Donald Trump in spite of the convictions, in spite of the rape adjudication, in spite of all the crimes he committed and all the crimes he was to be tried for. They still thought he was a good choice. Well, I hope you're enjoying your choice now because you're going to receive the penalties or the punishment for making that choice. Janine says, perhaps Jake now would put his cumulative experience to good use on the sitting president. That would be way more useful and relevant. Yeah, absolutely. I think any journalist should do that. Clearly, there's some evidence of cognitive diminishment in Donald Trump. Why not do a deep dive? Why not investigate it? Why not talk to doctors and find out what's really going on while it's going on so maybe we can save ourselves from some of the trouble that is no doubt going to come because of Donald Trump's poor choices. I mean, just by virtue of putting the people he has put into the various positions in the departments. I mean, you could look at these people as cruel, as mean, as vicious, but I think the biggest problem we're looking at with these people is they're incompetent. They just don't know what they're doing. I mean, here we are going on with what's going on across the world. Everything's pretty volatile, and most of these countries are pissed off at us. And look what we have. We have Pete Hegseth in charge of the DOD, Tulsi Gabbard in charge of national intelligence. We have Kash Patel in charge of the FBI. It doesn't appear as though we have any national security, and all the people in positions to keep us safe are, as Leslie says, unqualified. At the very least, unqualified. So what happens when something bad happens? We've got a bunch of clowns that don't know what to do if something bad happens. And that could be tragic when it's all said and done. Michael Catlett says those criticizing Biden forget how much he got done while in office. CHIPS and Science Act, Infrastructure and Jobs Act, American Rescue Plan, student loan relief, largest climate investment in history, prescription drugs savings, capped drug cost. Yeah, and of course, Donald Trump in the process is trying to tear all those things apart and has been successful with many of them. See, that's the problem with our governmental system. We've got people that know what they're doing and doing a good job and want to work for the people of this country. They do good things, and then some other fucking clown steps in and just undoes all of it. So what's the point of doing it in the first place if it's just going to be undone? I mean, a lot of that has to go to us. We're the ones that vote in a Democrat to clean up the mess, and then for whatever reason, we vote in another Republican to fuck it up again. I don't understand the thinking on that. What's the point? The only thing I can hope for is with the ultimate calamity that we're going to be in because of Donald Trump, maybe we'll get something like what happened back with FDR when FDR took over. The Republicans fucked up things so much with the Depression that they were out of power for 20 or 30 years. That may be what it would take to get things back and on track again. See, that's the thing. Even if in the midterms we win the House and the Senate, nothing gets fixed. It just holds Donald Trump off. Nothing will get passed because Donald Trump won't sign it unless we have a supermajority, and that's not likely. So all that happens when in the midterms, if the Democrats and the Republican or Democrats win the House and the Senate, everything just kind of stagnates. That's what happens. And so we've got a full 4 years of virtually nothing getting done. You know, in the first 120 days, this particular House of Representatives, controlled by the Republicans, has only passed 5 bills. That's the lowest amount ever in Congress. Nobody's been that ineffective. No Congress has been that ineffective. But that's where we are right now. And we should have known that, given what happened the last 2 years during Biden's term and what the Republicans did in the House of Representatives. All they did was stupid investigations into Biden and Hunter Biden and all that stuff where no evidence was ever found. Jose Valdez says, Leslie is right. Unfortunately, although those people are unqualified, they are loyal to Trump and will do his bidding. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's the problem. We got a bunch of people that don't know how to react to things. They are not professionals. It's like going to a plumber and have them overhaul your engine in your car. They might have some capabilities, but not about fixing the fucking car. And that's where we are here. We've got a bunch of clowns running things. And this is how Donald Trump does business, too. He's not worried about having good people in positions. He doesn't care about that. He just wants somebody to do whatever he tells them because Donald Trump believes he's the smartest one in the room, which is very dangerous because he's probably the dumbest person in the room. But as long as he's got somebody who will do whatever he says, that'll keep his ego going. And of course, we will all pay the price because it will end up being a fucking mess. You know, we've got this bill in Congress, the GOP tax bill, the cutting of Medicaid and all the ridiculous stuff. They took it into committee and it failed. But this weekend, I'm just looking here, the Republicans advanced their massive tax cut and border security package out of a key House committee during a rare Sunday night vote as deficit hawks who had blocked the measures 2 days earlier allowed it to move forward, citing what they called progress in negotiations on the package. Now, what you have to understand about that committee, where it didn't clear the committee the first time, it wasn't about people that were complaining about cutting Medicaid. That wasn't the problem. It was about the rabid Republicans who said they weren't cutting enough. They wanted to gut Medicaid, and there are Republicans out there saying it's not enough. The thing about it is when it finally gets to be voted in the House, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. There aren't very many courageous politicians anymore because they only have one concern. You would think that concern would be serving the Constitution or serving the country or serving the people that they represent, but that's not it. What it is how do I save my job? How do I save my job? Now, I got to tell you, if this bill comes to the House and people have to vote on this big, beautiful bill, they're in fact going to be voting to gut Medicaid. Now, they'll try to say, no, we're not cutting Medicaid. It's this. That's exactly what they're doing. They're cutting Medicaid. And that is the first step in trying to cut all entitlements. So it's going to be interesting to see how many people have enough courage to vote for that bill, because those people who vote for that bill need to be exposed and promoted and publicized for the next year and a half. Those people who voted to cut health care and Medicaid from their own people. Because you see, when it comes to Medicaid, there's a lot of people around the country that have Medicaid, of course, but those red states are particularly affected by this. So I got to wonder what a red state and a red representative says to his constituents after he cuts all of their medical care, the Medicaid, and all of this. How do you survive? To me, this is about political suicide, and I think these politicians are smart enough to understand that. they know this is going to be bad for them if they do something like this. Whether they will or not, I don't know. I mean, every time we think they're going to shut things down on Donald Trump gets on the phone and I don't know if he threatens them or he sweet talks them. I would be willing to bet it's more of a threat because that's how Donald Trump does business. But whatever threat he makes obviously has an impact on them. My greatest fear here is that people are having a tough time waking up to Donald Trump. I mean, you and I know what the fuck is going on, but there's a faction of people out there, the Trump-la-fucks, that just haven't woken up yet. I don't know what more has to happen, but apparently it has to be an economic or a security calamity before anybody wakes up and says, hey, this guy's dumb. Jose says, thank you for sharing your voice, your truth and honest words. You're a positive influence and inspiration in our fight to preserve our democracy. Thank you, Jose. I appreciate that. And people will say that to me from time to time. You're always so positive. You seem sure that it's going to turn out well. Well, I'll tell you this. I've lived 65 years. I've gone through some shitty times for this country personally, like everybody else. I've gone through those times. But here's what I know. In spite of all those times when things did not look good, I'm still sitting right here. I'm sitting here. I'm comfortable. I'm safe. I'm okay. And if we don't have some hope, then what's the point? I tell people who come to me all the time when they have no hope, oh my God, it's over, the sky's falling. I say, well, then go sit in the corner, hug yourself, and shut the fuck up. Because there's got to be hope and there's got to be some fight left in this for everybody. Otherwise, there's no point in going on. If there's no point in going on, why do any of this? Reggie Cole says, Mike, don't forget this idiot horde in those red states will believe anything they're told by the right-wing media ecosystem. Watch, they'll spin as good thing to do. Well, they are spinning it that way. Well, you just wait on the tariffs. Well, if the tariffs are so great, why is he pulling back on them? I don't understand that. Walmart comes out, who's a big Trump supporter, and says we've got to raise prices because of Donald Trump's tariff. Now, Donald Trump does not like that because it exposes his poor choice, his stupid idea. And he says to Walmart, look, you should eat those extra costs. Otherwise, I'll be watching you and America will be watching you. Here's my question to Donald Trump. If you told us that tariffs would bring down prices, and now you're telling Walmart that you have to eat those rising prices, what the fuck's right here? You said they would go down, and now they're not going down, so Walmart should have to eat those higher prices. Donald Trump literally doesn't know what he's talking about. He's just spitballing everything. And because he's stupid, we're going to have to pay the price for them. I know a lot of people think that with the China tariffs, because he backed off of them, the economic calamity is not going to happen. I'm sorry to tell you it is, because as far as I know, they haven't started ships coming from China yet. There's been at least 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks with no ships coming in. That means there's going to come a point in the next couple of weeks, probably, where there are going to be shortage of things. And when there's a shortage of things, the prices will go up if you can get them at all. If you can get them at all, they're going to go up. And Donald Trump is trying to put people's minds at ease. Well, I pulled back the tariffs. It's not my fault. Well, the fact of the matter is you still raise the tariffs. They're not 145% now, but they are 30%. And a 30% tariff is going to raise the price. And that's the best you can hope for, because I really believe China is going to try to teach Donald Trump a lesson. They're tired of going back and forth and debating with this fucking clown, being lied to. They're tired of this shit. So they're going to shove it down his throat by not shipping products and say, how do you like this, motherfucker? Now, it's going to be interesting to see how he tries to spin it. My guess is, well, I did what I did with the tariffs, so it must be China's fault. No, it's your fault, Donnie. Everything was running fine before you came into office. Stock market was flying high, GDP was increasing, unemployment was going down. Everything was going well. Surprisingly, after you came into office, everything went to shit. So you have to excuse me. I got a bit of a cold. I don't know where I got this cold. It was 90 one day and then 45 the next day. I guess that's probably where it came from. Or I'm hanging out with my 5-year-old granddaughter and she's got a cold. And you have a 5-year-old granddaughter with a runny nose and a cold and she wants a kiss, you give her a kiss. I don't give a fuck about the cold. I'd rather hang out with my granddaughter. Anyway. People are feeling this false sense of comfort because it feels like the tariff situation with China is over. It is not over. Donald Trump knows it's not over. He's trying to find ways to cover his ass. He knows it's coming. And then when Walmart comes out and says, we're going to raise prices, he doesn't like that because you're pointing a finger at his fuck-ups. And that's what we've got to do. Henceforth, we've got to start pointing the finger and placing the blame. This is what Donald Trump and the Trump-la-fucks did for the last 4 years to Joe Biden. Oh, it's his fault. It's his fault. Well, now it's our turn. And they got a problem with Joe Biden. Joe Biden was the evil villain that they always pointed to. Oh, he did this. Oh, he did that. Oh, he did this. Donald Trump loved to talk shit about Joe Biden. Everybody else loved to talk shit about Joe Biden while he's only a private citizen sitting in Delaware. But now they got a problem. He's got a serious illness. He's got a serious illness And to make him out to be the villain is not going to look very good. So they're going to have to find somebody else to pound on. Maybe it'll be Kamala. Maybe it'll be somebody currently in Congress that happens to be a Democrat. But I was talking to Will yesterday on the podcast, and I think Will and I agree on this. As bad as this is, as much of the shit that's going on, it's going to end eventually. Situations like these can't go on forever. There's ultimately a crash. There is calamity of sorts where everything just falls apart. And if you look at Donald Trump right now, you're kind of seeing that right now. Every time he does something, he fucking fails. Every court case goes to shit. Now, people will say, well, what can the courts do? And at this point, it seems like the courts can't do anything. But again, when this is all said and done, somebody's going to have to pay the price. Now, Donald Trump is said to have immunity given to him by the Supreme Court. And he was given a certain amount of immunity, but it is limited. A lot of people think that it's sweeping immunity over anything he does, as long as it has to do with his job as president. Well, there are some limitations in this. You know, one limitation is you're not immune from bribery. That's very specific in the decision. And when we look at what's going on in Qatar and giving him this plane, that clearly is bribery. Or Saudi Arabia giving him $2 billion for a crypto coin, which is ridiculous. It's already dying on the vine. There's a lot of bribery involved. It's funny, I was watching a bunch of Trump-lafucks, and they were so excited. See what he's doing? He's going over to the Middle East, and he's winning every time. And that may be true. He may be winning. But who's he winning for? What has he done for this country or for policy or international policy while he's over there? Not one bit. There's been not one thing done for this country or for the greater world. Everything there has been a benefit to him. Money in his pocket. We've got Don Jr. over there trying to use his dad's name to get whatever money. Eric, his daughter Ivanka, and her husband, they're all capitalizing off of this situation. It's like a money grab. It's a smash and grab, if you will. They're going and grabbing every bit of money they can get because they know when this is over, they're going to have some problems. Going to have some big problems at this point. So you can talk about him going to the Middle East and how he's winning. My question would be, what's he won for this country? And I know a lot of Trump-fucks don't give a fuck about that. They just care about Donald Trump winning because he's their Lord and Savior. He's their hero. You know, I've always heard about Donald Trump's plan of handing the power off to Don Jr. in 2028 and letting him run for election for president. And the Trump-fucks thinking he has a chance. Well, by that time, Donald Trump will be a pariah. Anybody related to Donald Trump will be a pariah, and there's no chance. But Don Jr., fucking please. Here's a headline that I saw, and it made me laugh. But I know it's true because Donald Trump Jr. is so fucking stupid. Donald Trump Jr. asked how Dr. Jill Biden could miss husband's prostate cancer. He's wondering how his wife, Dr. Jill Biden, didn't catch Joe's prostate cancer. This has been going on for a long time. They keep talking about shit about Jill Biden because she's not a real doctor. They think the only way you can be a doctor is if you're a medical doctor. Well, Jill Biden's not a medical doctor. She's an educator, and she's a doctor. There are many educators that are doctors, but this dumb fuck doesn't get it. And he continues to say things that are absolutely ignorant. The fortunate thing for him is the people he's generally talking to are just as dumb as he is, just as dumb as he is, and they just agree with him. But if anybody thinks Don Jr. is ever going to be a candidate for president, I hope he is, because he will get absolutely fucking destroyed. Absolutely destroyed. I saw something interesting. Uh, Cash Patel and Dan Bongino, that fucking clown, these two heads of the FBI, they were on a Fox interview. And of course, the conversation of the Epstein files came up. Now, a lot of people don't believe that Jeffrey Epstein was or committed suicide. A lot of people think he was killed. And I think that's a distinct possibility. That's definitely possible. But all the Trumplafucks believe that he was murdered. And they assume it was some Democratic person that murdered Jeffrey Epstein. All of a sudden, Dan Bongino and Cash Patel are coming out. No, he committed suicide, which is contrary to what their followers have been saying. Now, a lot of those people are going, what the fuck? That's not true. Why are you saying that? So they're pissing off the Republicans by saying that he committed suicide. But what's interesting about this whole thing is that the Republicans were big on exposing all the video and all the files on Jeffrey Epstein, right? They were big on that. Donald Trump was always a little leery of doing it. He exposes MLK, RFK, and JFK's assassinations. He wants all the files out. But when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein, there's a lot of people that could get in trouble. Yeah, that's the fucking point, dipshit. We want to know everybody who committed these crimes, whether they be Democratic or Republican. And the problem is Donnie knows there's probably some video of him in this mix. In fact, Jeffrey Epstein probably used said video against Donald Trump at one point or another. So Donnie doesn't want that shit out. But the Republicans in Congress were all about it. They didn't know what was going on, but now they start seeing it. Funny thing is, these people don't want that exposed anymore. They don't want the Epstein stuff to be exposed. Well, no, bitches, I think we should see it. I mean, if you are a Republican or a Trumplafuck, and if you really believe in the safety of your children, doesn't matter who was doing it. But the people who were involved now don't want you to see it. That should tell you something. That should be a little tip-off that something fucked up's going on. Will we ever see the Epstein files? Not while Donald Trump is president. I'll guarantee you that, because he's got some things he's got to cover up, some things he's got to worry about, and he knows it. And now a lot of Republicans understand that. And we aren't going to see that at all. They're not going to come out because you've got Pam Bondi, who is the Attorney General, who would be responsible for releasing that stuff. And the last time she released it, it was not complete. In fact, she just released old stuff. There's a guy out there that was a right-wing guy who's trying to expose Pam Bondi and that she was covering this up. And that's distinctly possible. Whether that will go anywhere, I don't know. And I'm concerned about the Jeffrey Epstein thing. I'd like to see all the information, and I'd like to see anybody and everybody, even if it's my favorite person in the world, if you're responsible for what went on during Epstein's crime wave, you need to go down. I mean, anybody, even if it's my favorite politician, if they did it, they need to fucking go down. And that's the problem with the Republicans. They're okay with it as long as it's the Democrats. But when the Republicans start to get exposed for this shit, yeah, they don't like it much. Janine says, I'm not sure that his use of executive orders to impose tariffs is one of the things covered by his immunity, especially if the tariffs make things worse for America. Yeah, I don't know. if immunity even comes into play in that situation, to be honest with you, Janine. Um, the thing about it is that tariffs have traditionally had to be approved by Congress, but Congress allowed the president to do the things he's doing now with executive orders. There's limited times they can do it, I believe, but Congress gave him that opportunity. I don't know that what he's doing with the tariffs is a crime. I don't think it is. I think it's stupid. I think it's contemptible. I think it's something that's going to harm this country, but I don't know that it's illegal. It will be harmful to a lot of people and will cost the Republicans a lot, but I don't know if that's where criminal activity comes into play. Leslie says, or Bruce Springsteen's fault. Yeah, I love seeing that. Bruce Springsteen, uh, he's an American icon, a hero, a patriot for that matter. And he was over in Europe, I believe, and he was talking some shit about Donald Trump being treasonous and incompetent. Donnie Trump hated that. Oh, he hated that. He hates it when anybody talks badly of him because he's such an insecure little fuck. But anyway, he he went on to say that he never liked Bruce Springsteen, that he's overrated. Yeah, Bruce is overrated. Tell me about that. And then he says, well, Bruce said it outside the country. I bet he wouldn't say it inside the country. Want to bet? I bet he will when he's back in the country. In fact, just yesterday, he said it again. Bruce isn't afraid of Donald Trump. Bruce has made his bones and he's got his money and his fame, and people know who he is. But it was funny. Donald Trump was trying to intimidate Bruce Springsteen, which I think is hilarious. You know, he said, you wouldn't say it in this country. And then he said, hey, you remember when I was talking about Taylor Swift, all of a sudden she's not so hot anymore. Taylor Swift and Bruce Springsteen are far more popular than Donald Trump could ever hope to be. I'll fucking guarantee you that. And the thing about it is Taylor Swift was on her Eras tour when he was talking about her, and she's not now. So she's not as in the forefront of the news as she once was. But I said something. I said, you know, it would be funny on June 14th when Donald Trump's supposed to have this parade, this fucking ridiculous parade. It would be kind of fun to have Bruce Springsteen and Taylor Swift do a free concert on the Washington, D.C. Mall, and let's see who shows up to the fucking parade. And Michael Catlett says the same thing I'm saying too. And then there was a meme out there suggesting that same thing. Free concert, Taylor Swift and Bruce Springsteen. That fucking thing would be packed. Nobody would be at the parade. And that would be a great thing to do. Now, both these two are very popular and very busy. I don't know that anything like that could be done, but I would hope they say something at least. I mean, I know Bruce is going to keep saying stuff. Taylor Swift, I understand why she'd want to stay out of it, but at the same time, what we're going through here calls for desperate measures. And if some of these people could stand up and help out and push back against Donald Trump, that would be a big help to us. I mean, we all have to be doing that. We all have to be pushing back on Donald Trump. The interesting thing is, with this whole parade idea, I was talking to Old Soul, who happened to be in D.C. for a little bit. I don't think she's there anymore, but she was in D.C. and she said to me, you know, there's all kinds of construction going on, and there's big posters of Donald Trump going up. And she sent me a picture, and there's these huge pictures of Donald Trump being hung on buildings. I mean, it fucking looks like Red Square out there, and all these pictures of Donald Trump. And I said, well, that's probably in preparation for this parade that Donald Trump is doing, and that makes sense. And when I first heard about this parade, $100 million parade, they're going to have 6,600 troops out there. They're going to have like 150 military vehicles, maybe 50 tanks, some planes flying over, and that sort of thing. I said, there's no way that's going to happen. How are they going to justify spending that much money and doing the damage to Washington, D.C. streets that they'll most certainly do. I just don't see it happening. Now I have a different view of it. I don't know if it will happen, but I hope it does. I hope it does happen. Because of the one thing I know about Donald Trump. Donald Trump, whatever he does, he will fuck it up one way or another. One way or another, he will fuck it up. And this will be an absolute shit show. He'll be laughed at by countries around the world. There'll be protest by the thousands at this thing, and something will get fucked up. As I told you before, we don't even know that we have any national security anymore. We don't know what the clowns in positions of power in these particular departments would do. But think about this. We got one day with all this military in one spot. In one spot. The president there from a box or something, showing how powerful he is and how much stuff we've got. We've got all this going on in one spot. Donald Trump thinks this is going to be a way to make him look big or make the military look big. To me, it seems like it's a big fucking target. If you know it's coming and it's going to be there, it's a big target. Now, a target for who, I don't know. Foreign countries, maybe. Internal people in this country. The bottom line is Donald Trump only plans to enrich himself. He doesn't consider the security aspects of this or what may go wrong. Nothing could go wrong. Donald Trump dreamt this up. Of course, it's going to go along perfectly. That's what Donald Trump thinks. So, part of me wants to see this parade happen because it will be an embarrassment. And Donald Trump thinks it's a great idea, but Donald Trump has a lot of great ideas that are stupid. And this one is stupid. It's going to be embarrassing. So part of me wants him to do this because we know he'll fuck it up. It'll be interesting to see what it does to the streets. I mean, you run tanks down normal streets in Washington, D.C., it's going to tear those fucking things up so easily. And then you're going to have traffic jams and you're going to have problems. And all these people are going to be put out again by fucking Donald Trump. That's what's going to happen. And if we're lucky, nothing tragic will happen. We can only hope that's the case. It's the thing that frustrates me the most is I've always said when he was elected president, I said, well, this can only go so far. At some point, the Republicans are going to say, okay, that's too far. We're going to stop him now. We're going to impeach him. We're going to neutralize him some way because he'll be a liability, not an asset anymore. And the fact of the matter is he is not an asset anymore. He's killing them in the polls. The stock market's going down. Everything's going to shit. But the Republicans have yet to push back. I know they're going to push back at some point. I know they're going to kick him to the curb at some point. But the idea that it's gone on this long just truly fucking amazes me. I don't know how it goes on this long. I mean, these people are hanging tight with Donald Trump. And when he goes off the cliff, he's going to take a lot of those people with him. A lot of people that hope for careers and futures and that stuff. And they're going to go all in the shitter because they stuck with Donald Trump too long. How do they know when it's been too long? I think it's already been too long. Now, Monday, as people on the podcast are listening to it, it's today. Donald Trump claims he's going to get on the phone with Vladimir Putin and Zelensky. He's going to try to get this Ukraine-Russia war wrapped up. Because it's funny, you know, when he was in his campaign, he told us that within 24 hours after he was elected, not after he took control, but after he was elected, he would be able to shut down this war with just a phone call. 24 hours, he could wrap this bitch up. Well, we're 4 or 5 months into it now, and nothing has been done. He's gone to Zelensky, and then he's gone to Vladimir Putin. And it seems like he's getting a little frustrated with Vladimir Putin because Vladimir Putin is a con man. He'll tell Donald Trump what he wants to hear. They'll go to Zelensky. He'll come back, and then Vladimir Putin will change it. So Donnie's getting frustrated now because Donald Trump doesn't give a fuck about the war or the people dying in the war. He'll say he does, but he doesn't. He wants to get this thing resolved so he can take the credit for it. That's really the only reason why he wants to do this. So now he's getting frustrated because Vladimir Putin is not cooperating with him, not giving him anything. Neither is Zelensky, because basically Vladimir Putin wants to take over Ukraine, and that's the deal, and then we can have peace. Well, Zelensky's not going to do that. He'd be stupid to do that. He's a much stronger leader than Donald Trump. He's a better leader than Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump, we have two immensely insecure pieces of shit, and they're trying to bully their way through things. The unfortunate thing for Vladimir Putin, as much as he wants to act like the tough guy, the strong guy, he's not. They were going to win this war in 3 days, and now it's going on 4 years. Hundreds of thousands of Russians are being killed. Territory has been taken away from Russia by Ukraine, as much as Russia's taken Ukraine. Much of their military machinery has been destroyed. Vladimir Putin's not in a good shape at this point. He should want this war to end as badly as Zelensky. And he does, but he'll never say that. He'll never say that at all. Now, Fawn McFarland says Putin and Trump are very similar. They are, with one big exception. Donald Trump is dumb, and Putin is not. Putin is very cagey. He's a former KGB guy. He knows how to manipulate people. And to be perfectly honest with you, everybody in this world, every leader in this world understands how to manipulate Donald Trump because it's fucking simple. Because he's insecure and because he's a narcissist, all you have to do is compliment him a little bit, and then he'll give you whatever you want. Then he'll go to somebody else and they'll compliment him, and he'll give them what they want. But he can never get anything accomplished. He's not very, he doesn't have a lot of critical thinking skills. It's all about who likes him, and if you like me, I like you, and I'll do whatever you want. Unfortunately, everybody knows how to do that, so he gets confused. He doesn't get anything done when he's in this process. Donald Trump hoped to get the Israeli-Hamas thing done. He has not done that. He did exactly what I told everybody he would do. Everybody talks shit about Joe Biden with Israel and Hamas, that he wasn't doing enough. Well, what Joe Biden was doing is he was putting some reins on Benjamin Netanyahu, because Benjamin Netanyahu is basically Donald Trump. He's a vicious dictator, and he doesn't care about anything. He wants to stay in the war so he can stay in power. Once the war is over, he's probably going to be indicted, convicted, and put in jail. So he doesn't want the war to be over. And Donald Trump has become frustrated with Benjamin Netanyahu, too. In fact, they're at odds a little bit now. But what's Benjamin Netanyahu doing now? He's not giving any aid to Gaza. He's bombing the shit out of Gaza. The Israeli cabinet said they're going to occupy all of Gaza. And while that's going on, Donald Trump is over in Qatar getting presents of $400 billion planes or $1 million planes, whatever it is, getting a $400 million plane, which is a bribe from Qatar, which is ironic because Qatar is well known for financially backing terrorist organizations, including Hamas. How do you think Israel's looking at that thing? And then trying to cut a deal with Syria, who is a confirmed enemy of Israel. You see what Donald Trump is doing here. He's trying to benefit himself. He's trying to enrich himself. But at the same time, he's shoving it in the face of Benjamin Netanyahu. These two who were best buddies for so long are now at odds because Donald Trump wants to force him to do what he wants them to do. But because Benjamin Netanyahu is the same as Donald Trump. He's not going to allow that to happen. He's not going to bend for Donald Trump. So what that means is the war between Hamas and Israel isn't going to end because the people involved, well, maybe Hamas wants it to end at this point, but Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't want it to end. Because if it ends, then so does Benjamin Netanyahu. Getting down toward the end here, my throat's starting to lose it. And that's the same thing with Vladimir Putin, too. Vladimir Putin would like to be done with this because he's getting his ass kicked. But he's like Donald Trump in the sense that he can't admit that he lost or he failed. So he'll double down and triple down until it's ultimate destruction. Now, Russia has enough power to maintain this for a while, and Ukraine has less power. But you got to give the Ukrainian folks a little credit because they've really worked their heart out in order to hold off Russia, and they've done a great job. But here we've got Donald Trump, the great peacemaker in his mind, and nothing has been done. You notice what's happening with Israel. He's not even talking about Israel anymore, really. The reins that Joe Biden put on Benjamin Netanyahu were taken off. And that's what I told you would happen. You thought Joe Biden was doing nothing. Donald Trump is doing less than nothing. He's letting Benjamin Netanyahu do whatever the fuck he wants. And therein lies the problem. There's where the atrocities occur. And I feel for the people of Israel. And I feel for the people of Russia because they're basically in the same situation we are. Israeli people aren't bad people. The Russian people aren't bad people, but they've got leaders that are fucking horrific. Absolutely fucking horrific. And they have to deal with this stuff. It's even harder for Russia because they don't have fair elections. And Israel, they do have fair elections. I still, for the life of me, don't know how Benjamin Netanyahu got back in after he got kicked out. I don't get that whole process. I don't understand their politics. But the bottom line is Donald Trump is going to talk to Vladimir Putin today, Monday, when you hear this on the podcast. I'm curious as to what he's going to say, because at some point he's going to piss off Vladimir Putin. He's already pissed off Netanyahu to a certain extent. And this is exactly what happens with malignant narcissists. From a distance, some people say, oh, he's pretty impressive. But then when they get friends, they never last very long because people see the cracks. They see these people throwing them under the bus to benefit themselves, and people just want to get away from them, and they ultimately don't like them. Problem with this is when Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin are at odds and arguing, it's not going to be pretty because Vladimir Putin is not a nice guy. And if he's got things on Donald Trump, if he wants to make Donald Trump look like a fool, he can do it very easily. Because as I said, people said Putin and Trump are similar. They are similar in terms of being malignant narcissists. But Putin is far smarter than Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a complete idiot. He thinks whatever comes out of his mouth is absolute genius. Putin knows everything that comes out of his mouth isn't genius. But he has the power to force it down people's throats. Donald Trump doesn't have that power yet. He's trying to get that power. He wants that power, but he doesn't have it as yet. So there is a difference between the two of them, and if there is a fight, if there is a head-to-head combat between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump, Donald Trump will lose that fight. He will lose that fight, no question. So we'll see what that phone call does today. If he gets any closer to some peace between Ukraine and Russia, but I don't believe that's the case. I don't even believe that there'll be peace with Israel and Hamas until Benjamin Netanyahu wants to do it. And as I said, he has no motivation to do that because if he does, then he's going to be indicted and he's going to be put in jail. So there's no reason or no motivation to stop this fight. He's going to try to perpetuate it. And without a strong president pulling the reins back or pressuring him like Joe Biden was doing, he'll just keep doing it forever. And people will die and these atrocities will happen. And Donald Trump won't care because he's got his fucking tariffs and his own problems in his own country. All right. We're getting toward the end here. My throat's kind of not holding up. When I have to talk to an hour or so straight with just me, doesn't go well when I have a cold. That's why I love having the guest. Hopefully, I'll have a guest tomorrow. But anyway, thank you for listening. Leslie says, thanks for the podcast tonight. Hope you get over the cold very quickly. I do too. It's been getting better. It's been getting better. I'll be fine. I've been through this before. So anyway, for all of you listening, thank you for doing that. I hope you have a great night, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.